detective. Thrill me.
Thanks for joining us again. Our New Year's Eve episode. So welcome to 2020. It's just Jared and me this time around. We are covering a specific New Year's movie. New Year's Evil, Jared. And this was your call.
Was it?
I'm getting it straight out on the table. Your call.
Yeah, I've got to take
from
this
the
on.
start.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
New Year's Eve episode, New Year's Evil.
Well, we felt. Look,
Shit.
see what they did with that?
Yeah.
Like, very, very catchy title.
Yeah.
So we were sort of pulled in.
That piques a dullard like me. That piques my interest straight away.
Exactly. Now, we will also be doing something else. Through the magic of podcasting, we may have another, we may go to a break and then come back after we've covered the film. We may have a third in the room. But we're actually going to do the 5 best and worst films of 2019 from us personally. So that
Very
will be a
personal
very
experience, that
interesting discussion, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, before we get into it, you have seen a few things. I've seen nothing.
You
since
sure?
we last covered. Let's not go into
Didn't
that.
mention anything.
Oh, look, I may have watched a movie about dogs on fucking Disney Plus. Let's leave it there.
Okay.
It was a good film.
All right. Good film, was
But
it?
it was not an action or horror film.
Right.
So I have seen nothing else.
Okay.
What about you?
I have seen quite a handful. I watched The Nightingale, which was Jennifer Kent's second movie.
Untidy?
Look, there's some stuff that goes on that's quite horrific throughout the movie, but really good movie.
Was it
Really
difficult
good
to
movie.
watch?
Yes. Wasn't because it was overly graphic in particular circumstances. It was just difficult subject matter, and a couple of things that they do to people are just fucking inhuman, basically. But really good. And obviously, being in Australia, it's very close to stuff that we've grown up with, to do with how, the people were treating Indigenous people in the movie. And but yeah, I thought it was fantastic. It was really obviously quite a affecting sort of experience. It's not an easy watch, but really good movie. And so yeah, backing up on the Babadook with this one. She's obviously one of the bigger talents to watch for Australian
Cinema?
films, I guess. Staying with some Australian stuff, I got around to watching the mini-series version of Waking Fright.
Oh, yeah. What was that like?
It was good. It was good. It extends the story a whole lot to what was in the movie, and I believe what was in the book. I haven't read the book, but I think the movie stuck pretty close to that. Obviously, the movie was a really strong experience. It was a kind of obviously a shorter thing. This one sort of stretches a few things out a bit more and has a few lulls that the movie probably didn't have. And then obviously you've got someone like Donald Pleasance showing up in the movie is a pretty strong sort of actor to have in a little piece like that. It probably doesn't quite match up, and where it goes, it changes a couple of the characters' arcs and endings quite significantly.
Right.
But yeah, if you liked the old one or you hadn't seen it and you want to watch this first and then check out the old one, I'd probably recommend you do it. While I was watching it though, I couldn't help but think, Alex Dimitriades, why did he never get a crack at bigger things? Because the bloke he's a great actor.
He's an excellent actor. And he's done a lot of really good work in Australia.
He has.
Maybe he just...
he plays the Pleasance role in this one.
He was in... Juice Bigelow, European Gigolo. So,
again, why didn't he get a shot? Why didn't he get a shot at these
in
things?
better films? Look, Dimitriades, maybe it just...
He's solid as a rock.
Maybe it was just about timing.
Yeah,
He didn't quite
probably
get the opportunities he needed, but he always has worked. And I think that's a really good mark of any good actor, is you constantly get work.
Yep. Going away from the Australian content a little bit, probably dipping slightly in quality as well. Escape Plan 3.
Ooh,
what
was this like?
Pretty ordinary. Devon Sawa was the heavy.
Is Stallone in it much?
He's in it more than 2, but not... He requires other people in the team, basically, so he doesn't spend as much time on screen. But in this one, they kind of make a wise move, and they get one of the blokes that was in the Ip Man series to be one of the guys in the crew.
Yeah.
They get a little bit more Batista as well. So they kind of break off and have their own fights and things like that, which works to an extent. It works for the kind of standalone action fight scenes, but in terms of the story, it just kind of just branches off to random people for 10, 15 minutes at a time.
Right.
So Stallone's just, he's just punching the card and just doing the usual.
50 Cent? Still a
50
computer
cents,
genius?
50 cents turning up for a day or two, and
All right, so he's not in it much either?
but in it for he just mans the fort and stays on the computers and shows up every now and then in a shot saying, "Here, got some info for you" or whatever. But look, it's okay. It's an okay little action fair. It kind of strays away from the previous two, were the high tech prison that had to be broken.
Yeah.
This one's not that at all. It's kind of just.
So why is it
Sort
called
of like just a rescue?
Plan?
Well, it's just kind of a rescue mission in a similar situation, but
Okay.
yeah.
Devon Sawa was the heavy.
Yeah. Why are you grinning?
No reason.
But I guess the thing about
He's
it
had
is
a
that-
1-2 punch of Escape Plan 3 and The Fanatic.
Yeah, look,
recently. He's had a
I
rough
know.
trot, the big fella.
Well, it's probably not as bad as Travolta's one too. I saw that there was a couple of worst movies of the year lists that had both The Fanatic and Trading Paint on there.
Did they?
So, yeah.
One of them didn't even have The Fanatic in it, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
You've lost your credibility there. But yeah, I guess with Escape Plan, if you were thinking about watching it, what I've just said is not going to sway you from it, because you probably know that that's what was coming anyway. So, much like myself, I picked it up and thought, this probably isn't going to be very good. Probably a 5 out of 10 at best, but I might get a few punch ups and a bit of Batista, throwing a few lines in there. So,
So you got what you
got
paid
what
for.
I expected. Yeah, nothing more.
Okay, what else?
I actually went back and watched the Batman Dead End fan film
Oh yeah,
and started watching a doco that the
is that
bloke
on
had put on
YouTube?
Yeah. I started the bloke put together a doco on YouTube too. It was interesting because he'd actually had a hefty background in the reason that the film looks quite good and is because he had a background with like Stan Winston Productions.
Oh, really?
He had a special effects background and sculpted action figures and all sorts of, he had a background and was a very talented special effects artist, which shows. It all came about because my son found a few of the old Predators figures that I had, and he found the Big Red, which is very kind of distinct in those Predator designs, and he's like, "What's this?" And so I was like, "Oh, it's just this little movie that some random bloke made."
How is the movie? How long is it?
Only goes for about 8 minutes. But it was kind of like I don't know, fan films to that point hadn't really been like that. Like this one, obviously it's got its shortcomings, but you look at it and you're like, wow, it's very cinematic, and then they introduce aliens and predators and you're like, holy shit, they look like aliens and predators.
Yeah.
And I believe some of it was that he had access to the actual costumes and stuff.
Oh really?
So it actually looks really, really good. But the Big Red was like a original design. And so, yeah, the fact that this Big Red ended up with an action figure, everyone's like, far out, how did that happen? Because it was only ever in this fan film. So, yeah, it was kind of interesting to go back down that little
Rabbit hole
again, and I'm sure there'll be a few more fan films that come out of that to watch over the next few weeks. Kept up with The Mandalorian.
Yep.
Up to the first half of the finale, which was pretty good. Couple of episodes preceding that were not all that well received.
Yep.
I quite enjoyed him. Overall, the series mostly has been really good. So, big fan of Gina Carano. I've seen some of it. I really liked Haywire. There was parts of it that I didn't like, but her fight scenes in there were phenomenal. And she brings a bit of that to this series as well. Gets a few punch ups and things like that. So.
Nick Nolte's in it as
Nick
well.
Nolte's, it's basically his voice, because his head is just like I don't know how. I think it's just. I don't know whether it's another actor or what, or whether it's bloody some CGI work. I'm assuming there's a bit of CGI work in there, but it's mainly his voice. But yeah, if you haven't checked that out, I'll check it out.
What's the name of that documentary filmmaker? Werner Herzog?
Werner Herzog's in there. Yeah. And he's quite effective. That kind of delivery that he's got, if you've heard him speak in some of his movies and stuff before, it's quite effective for the role.
Yeah.
Sticking on the Star Wars, I did see Rise of the Skywalker.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It was okay. I didn't come out disappointed. I enjoyed the experience. Bunch of stuff that was rushed, characters that were underused, scenes that were just... I mean, I don't know. The Kylo Ren stuff and the Rey stuff I felt was still pretty good. Finn just not quite used all that much. Some fucking gobbledygook about, you know, how things are happening again. And, but yeah, I don't know. My personal feeling is that how much you liked The Last Jedi will have a big impact on how much you like this, because they try to roll back a couple of things and try to appease the people that were pissed off with The Last Jedi, which for me is an issue, because I thought The Last Jedi was good, and I thought the fact that they did different things was probably one of the best things about it.
Well, yeah. Why are we rolling things back when I believe The Last Jedi had 91% Rotten
Well,
Tomatoes?
The critics loved it, but the fans for some reason hated it. And I don't know why. I don't get. I mean, I get certain things happened, but you know, it's fucking. I mean, as we stand, it's 42 years since the first Star Wars movie, so things are going to change.
Yeah.
And I guess to me, this is the prime example. Everyone pissed and moaned about what The Last Jedi did wrong, and this is how we wanted it. So J.J. Abrams tries to do that, and everyone's fucking annoyed with it. So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to get into it.
Is it time to take a bit of a breather?
Well, they're going to do that.
Step back.
But now the funny thing, the thing that really makes me
because
laugh...
I read an article that said Disney didn't know what they were doing.
No, well, that's what it seemed like.
They didn't actually know where they were going to end it.
They didn't know where they were going to end it. Which I don't think is necessarily a huge problem if you've got some ideas of where you're going to go with and you haven't made the final decisions until you get there. But, I mean, this is what makes me laugh again. People were complaining that, you didn't use George Lucas's ideas. I mean, going back to the prequels is just an experience that is fucking fills me with a sense of dread, because they're fucking so boring and they're dealing with all the this trade federation politics, and that's not... Who wants that to be the Star Wars? I mean, but now everyone's forgetting that everyone... we were looking at the prequels going, gee, that was really tough, that was a shit experience. But then when Last Jedi changes things up, or you didn't like what happened in Rise of the Skywalker, there was legitimately people complaining, you didn't use Lucas's ideas. How dare you, Disney? Well, shit. I mean, by my reckoning, the strike rate out of the new movies is probably 50%.
Yeah.
I liked
Lucas had handed the keys
over. Last Jedi. I liked Rogue One. Solo was a bit of a drop off. This one, a bit of a drop off. So I'm sticking you probably 2.5 films out of the 5.
Lucas he'd handed the keys over.
Exactly.
It was time
to
go away from his ideas.
Yeah.
E.g., that's why he sold them.
Well,
he sold the properties.
I don't quote me on this, but I think there was an expansion on the idea of midichlorians and things like that.
Oh,
that's not an improvement. So, yeah, I don't know. For me, it's just I came out of it saying, they tied up some stuff. There was things about the new trilogy that I really loved. There was stuff that I didn't like so much. I'm content, and I'll move on.
Yep, agreed. Totally agreed.
Maybe we've got a different perspective being horror fans, that we've sat through that many shit sequels. We don't really... I mean, we took how long to get a good Halloween movie?
Bloody hell, it's been 40 years.
So maybe there's a different perspective there, but I'm just more in the camp of, I come out of that cinema experience, if it's not going to change my life, hey, it was still pretty fun. And I got to experience a Star Wars movie with my kids when I was the kid the first time around. That's a good thing. And I move on thinking, I'm excited to, I'm happy to wait a couple of years, but if there's another one, I'll be back.
Of course.
I'm not going to get on the internet and fucking spend my days raging about it and carrying on and signing petitions to remake the series.
Yeah, fair enough.
I watched The Perfection on Netflix.
Yep.
Interesting little movie. A bit untidy in certain aspects again. A little bit weird. Don't let it scare you off, but down the stretch there was something that reminded me very much of Boxing Helena, and I laughed a lot. That scared you off, didn't it?
Well, Boxing Helena's not exactly a high watermark, so I'm not exactly going, well, shit, I better check this out. Look, I probably will check that one out.
It's got two very... Boxing Helena? Yeah, you should check that out.
Yeah, if I can find Boxing Helena, I'll be checking it out. That's my prize probably, I'm not sure.
Look, it's got two really strong leads. It's got the girl from Get Out,
Yeah.
and another girl that I'm not all that familiar with, but they were both really good. Interesting idea in that it sort of twists like it starts out one way and then twists, and then you don't really get comfortable in thinking you know what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't knock it out of the park, I didn't think, but it was interesting little experience. And the last time I watched was Six Underground. Got a little bit to go, but I'm going to tell you the last half hour would have to be the greatest piece of cinema in history to drag it to a 2-star, I reckon.
It is not.
It is
I can tell
a
ya.
piece of shit. I don't know, like it's just, as I said to you, it's just overlong, overindulgent, loud, blowing things up. Some nice little stunts, as you can expect from Michael Bay stuff, but it just makes you feel nothing. The entire run, I just felt nothing.
Yeah.
Like
Because the characters are they're one-dimensional.
Ryan Reynolds is even annoying. Like
Yeah.
he was just, I don't know. I just didn't get any sense of entertainment out of the whole thing, which is unfortunate.
And
Because it goes for 2 hours and 10 minutes.
is it just me, or the first half an hour goes back and forth and tries to...
Yeah.
And it's just such a jumble of
Yeah.
trying to sort of fill us in on where in this cool way.
Yep.
It's a fucking mess.
It
As
is.
I said,
It's a mess.
Who wrote this? And who thought this is a $150 million movie? Just based on that. Unless the
I don't
script
know.
was totally different and it just got Bayified, which is possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't, but
But the characters seemed to have no
characters were so
decent dialogue.
bland.
There was no connections.
there was no difference between, like, no one was different other than you're the hitman, you're the money man, you're the nurse. Aside from that, they were all the fucking same.
Yeah, but the
They
nurse...
acted the same.
The
They
nurse
all-
was barely fucking in it.
It was just, I don't know. It was so. It's a tough watch.
It is.
It's a tough watch.
It is. I mean, it is a smouldering wreck. It's like one of the cars that Bay has recently blown up.
But this is, I mean, this is, as I said to you, I watched a John Wick movie. Someone gets shot. John Wick shoots someone, and then they die, and I see them just kind of fall on the ground, and that's the end of them. In this one, people are getting shot. It goes to slow-mo, close-up of the bullet coming out. Then we spend another 15 seconds on showing him slow motion fall to the ground and hit his head on a sink. And, like, this isn't cool. This isn't interesting. Like, I don't know. I mean, John Wick is kind of what, for 3 movies, it's been kind of what we were begging for out of action. Easy to watch, not this quick chopping
But
shit
this
for the
is the
sake of
thing.
it.
It's just proves that Bay hasn't moved with the times, because I know you've got to have a style, right? And he's got a very unique style. But John Wick is the gold standard at the moment.
Yeah.
So aren't you looking at that?
But it's
going,
not even moving with the times. Like, I understand that, that we
Maybe
have-
just
the John
tweak-
Wick thing is that,
tweak
the whole,
your style a bit, maybe.
the John Wick is the whole, heavily choreographed. It's got those influences from martial arts films. Even the martial arts films have moved on a little bit. Things like The Raid and The Night Comes For Us, like they're more violent, and the impact of the fights is kind of, it's more frenetic and things like that. And there's not one person coming at you. There's more. But Bay just, I don't know, everything's just so overdone. I mean, there's only so many times we can see a car hit another car and think, ooh, that's exciting. Like, that opening sequence goes for like 20 minutes of car chase, and it is the most, I mean, I don't know how I would there's probably a number of ways I could describe the exact opposite of exhilaration, but that's what I was feeling the whole time. I'm just like, can we just get on with it? Because nothing is happening between the characters. The car chase is so overdone and overblown that it's just like, I just don't want to watch it anymore. Like, I don't know what he's...
And it's the thing, the guy actually knew how to stretch an action scene to its... get a ton out of a decent action scene that went for 5 minutes.
But as I said to you,
back in
we're
the
watching
day
these
with
car
The
cha-
Rock and Bad Boys and,
Yeah.
and Armageddon.
But those things also had... I mean, The Rock, for one, had some great interactions between Connery and Cage.
Yeah.
It had time with these characters. It had Bad Boys had the comedy and the humour to it, and had a decent little story for an action movie. This just, like I said to you in that car chase, it was the cuts and stuff were coming so quickly, you couldn't even tell who was sitting where inside the car at times.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's so, it just, and I feel like the impact of a car, there was one time in that chase where a car goes over another one and it splits in half. And I'm like, that looked cool, but it would have been so much better if I hadn't seen 3 to 4 similar cars ramping off over another car before that happened. Like, by the time we got to that, I'm just like, yeah, that looked good, but fuck, I'm sick of this car chase. And the whole movie is just, the whole time I was just like, I want to stop watching this.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't usually stop movies. I kind of just finish them.
And if you look closely at it, it's really just 3 or 4 action scenes
Yeah.
stitched together with this ridiculous fucking
couple of-
plot about him continuing to say, oh, you know, we're mired in red tape in real life, so we
the
killed
plot
ourselves.
is
They're still
so-
saying...
The plot is so down the line.
But
It's
they're
just,
an
this
hour
guy's
in.
here, this guy's here, let's go and get him.
But he says at the start, we faked our own death so we could move sort of, you know, freely in the world. That's all you needed. But
Yeah.
an hour later, he is still spouting this crap about
He tries to make it
life
so
has so much red tape and we
He tries
skip.
to make it so much
Shut
deeper.
the fuck up and get on with it.
Yeah, he tries to make it so much deeper than that. He tries
But it's
to
not
he
deep
keeps-
at all.
He keeps trying to say, death brings freedom. And isn't it great when you die, when you're still alive? And lines like this, and I'm like, oh, just get on with it.
Yeah.
When's he going to realise too that 90 minutes?
100 max.
90 minutes, Michael. When I started this and saw 2:10, I just went, oh, fuck.
But this is the
I was
thing.
kind of hoping that it's going to be exciting and it'll hold me, but after that first 20 minutes, I was like, the rest of it is going to be such a drag.
Okay. Armageddon, for instance. Now, I haven't seen it in a while,
Yep.
so don't quote me on it. I enjoy Armageddon, though.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours 10,
Yeah.
right? But you spend probably about an hour getting to know characters.
Yeah.
They're not greatly fleshed out,
It's the
but they're
same.
played by
Bit of
actors that
humour.
we all know.
Yeah. Likeable actors.
Likeable actors.
Bit of comedy.
And so what happens is there's a bit of comedy, a little bit of banter between them. We bring all that up to speed, and then we put them in peril.
Yeah.
Right? And you actually give a shit.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't give a shit about anything in this one.
This movie starts with these dickheads doing their first ever job and then tries to backtrack and
Yeah.
explain who they are, giving us 2-minute intervals about who they are.
And I mean, surely you can make something interesting out of why someone decided to fake their death.
And that whole ridiculous thing about... And at first I didn't even realise it was a flashback, that they dropped sarin gas or whatever in a village.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was the reason why Reynolds had done what he'd done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the look on his face during that scene basically says to me, I don't give a shit about anything.
Yeah. Well, the thing...
And they're trying to say I was that emotional resonance, that's what...
Obviously
Piss off.
Reynolds is there to bring the humour, but it's not anywhere near on the level of something like Bad Boys or Armageddon. And I don't know how you can make a story about 7 people who have faked their own deaths and have none of them... I mean, you've got 7 different reasons why these people decided to do this. And none of them are interesting.
Yeah.
None of them. Like, if you base that around these 7 characters that have... I mean, that's an interesting thing. Why have 7 people decided it's better to fake your death than, you know, stick with it? So they've got to have different things in their backgrounds. They've got to have different... And it just provides nothing to the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, very tough watch.
Tough
I mean, there'll be
hitting, that
people
one.
out there who'll enjoy it, I'm sure. But I've kind of grown
not many.
tired. I've grown tired of his style.
Yeah.
And he needs to either breathe some fresh life into what he's delivering
Yeah.
or pick projects that...
And so
fit
this is, I mean, we were talking about previously. We were talking about, you know, when's it time to wrap up the John Wick series and things like that. And I'm just sitting here going, don't wrap it up. Because if this is the alternative, when we were looking at our lists of our good and bad movies for the year, I was just sitting there going, holy shit, it has been a shocking year for action movies.
Well,
shocking.
I'm going to give a small nugget to, to keep people on the hook here, but I reckon it's been a pretty bad year in general. Because when I looked at my best 5, there's no blue chippers in there.
So look, we had differing standards, but I think the general consensus on, I look at websites like Bloody Disgusting and things like that.
Yeah.
The general consensus, and my feeling was similar, is that it was another pretty good year for horror.
Yeah, no, horror was a solid, middling year.
Whew.
The action, jeez.
I wouldn't say good year. I wouldn't even say middling. I'd say good year for horror.
A lot of horror. I guess there was a lot of horror in cinema.
Action, absolute shocking. I mean, I looked at Rotten Tomatoes put together their top 20s and things like that. The horror one started with I think there was 30 odd movies on there. They started in the 60s, or 50, high 50s and 60s, and worked their way up. And the top ones were in the 90s, obviously. Actions. Things like Angel Has Fallen were making the top list with 30%.
Jesus Christ.
And that's what we're getting at the moment.
Fresh of a year.
Absolutely shocking. And this is why I loved, me and Gibbo had a kind of differing stance early on, which I think he softened on a little bit, was that I loved about John Wick 2 was that they expanded the Continental and things like that.
Yeah.
And then the third one does it even more. So you could make spin-offs. I'm not saying I want that, but I would much rather watch a spin-off of a Cassian or someone from John Wick than I would watch another Michael Bay film.
No. Bay needs to shut down and retool.
I would watch the Bay film, but I wouldn't enjoy it.
I'd watch it.
I'd suffer through it, then I'd piss and moan for 2 weeks
honestly,
afterwards.
I was no chance of watching Six Underground. I remember watching the trailer and thinking, not on your life.
Well,
and then within the day of it dropping, I was straight on there.
See, that's what you always say. That you always say, I'm not watching that. I've come to a realisation that I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to like it.
Put it in the bloody bank.
I'm going to take it, and I don't have to like it.
All right, let's take a break, Jared. Let's get into 1981's New Year's Evil.
One night, they were celebrating New Year's Eve. He was out, ending their life.
I'm going to commit murder at midnight. Call me evil.
Every New Year's Eve, the caller came out.
Please, I'll do anything you want. We can even get it on if you want to. I won't make any kind of fuss.
Terrifying night of unspeakable evil. New Year's Evil.
All right, New Year's Evil. Sorry, I think it was made in 1980. Sorry, I got a little bit confused. Something said 1981, another said it was shot in 1980. Couldn't quite get 100% details.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by Emmett Alston, who directed 9 Deaths of the Ninja and Force of the Ninja. Don't know what they are. They sound great, though.
Yeah.
It was written by Alston and a guy by the name of Leonard Neubauer. They gave us something called Black Snake. And it was produced by the Cannon Fellas, the Go-Go Boys.
Yeah.
Globus and Golan. Eesh. It stars Roz Kelly as Diane Sullivan, Kip Niven as Richard Sullivan, and Chris Wallace as Lieutenant Clayton. I couldn't find any information about budget or box office. I even dusted off some of my slasher movie books to see if I could find anything. Now, while Golan and Globus was accredited as the producers, and Billy Fine as the executive producer, it was really Christopher Pierce who handled the bulk of the production duties.
Good on you, Chris. Well done.
Handled is a... it's a word,
Yeah.
but
It's
yes.
in the dictionary.
All right, Jared, what do you got for me on this one?
She's a stinker. It was shocking. It's a really bad movie. It fumbles the whole. I mean, it goes down the slasher route, or starts to, but then it fumbles it all by showing us sort of large details very early on, and then we spend a lot of time away from our final girl, I guess we would call her, just randomly roaming with the killer, and not a scrap of tension or stakes. None to be found anywhere. Yeah. I'd hesitate to give it 1 star. It was a half a
You sound
star.
fucking paid.
I'm paid. And it's my fault. Self-inflicted.
What do you give it?
I give it I was going to go for a 1, but I think I've dropped it down to a half. It was
All right.
she was a tough one, yeah.
Oof, yeah, look, it was a slog. My assumption is it was considered a slasher, right? Everything I've seen on
hallmarks,
it,
the
it's a
holiday.
slasher film. It's considered a slasher film.
Yeah.
But it you know what it feels like? It feels like an episode of Columbo.
Yeah,
where
where
the opens with a murder and we see who did it, and then Columbo comes along and works it out. So there's no tension.
So it
there's
feels
no
like an
stakes.
episode of Columbo, but instead of hanging around to wait for Columbo, we wander off with the killer and follow their shenanigans for a while.
It has no idea about the tropes of a slasher film,
Yeah.
or generating what you'd call cheap thrills, which was, you know, your slasher movie staple
Stock
was,
and trade.
was cheap thrills.
Yeah.
And there is no gore, which, you know, you toss a bit of that in, wouldn't you? So
Yeah, you
I'm not
would've
really
thought.
sure what they were doing, and I think this comes back to what you were saying during while we were watching it. That the Canon people seem to have no concept of like film genres
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how they work.
So we're going for a slasher. Here's the tropes. Here's the boxes. Have we ticked any of them?
And immediately the director goes, "Oh, I didn't know you wanted any of that."
Yeah. I think I might have posed it to you with, were Canon actually trying to make good movies? Or
Yeah.
just,
Look, Canon were known for cheap, quick, and make some money.
yeah.
So ultimately,
But, I mean, shit.
Mate,
Halloween was quick and cheap.
yeah, exactly, and it made a shitload of
Just had
money.
a bloke behind the camera who had some idea about what he was looking for.
Exactly.
Canon seemed to have just bumped into people in the office and said,
I do
"You
want to direct a
movie?
picture. Yeah. Look, I
Got
tell
any
you,
idea about slashes? No. That's okay. Neither do we.
it's 1 out of 5
Yeah.
for me. It's a tough gig coming up with likes and dislikes, and a lot of them for me, likes
definitely
wise,
cross over.
were a laugh.
Yes.
And I'm coming straight out with her, the main woman, Blaze, her offsider as we open the movie up. His
Yeah.
name's Ernie.
Yep.
At one point he is standing there, we get a full head to toe shot, and he is cracking like slacks, jacket,
Was it a
t-shirt, I
skivvy, a
think.
turtleneck or
I think
something?
it's a turtleneck. And he's got his hands on his hips and his legs sort of.
Yeah, he's turning the toe.
His feet in the ballet pose. He looks like a cross between like Don Johnson in Miami Vice and John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever.
I was thinking Lower Red. I got a bit of an Ernie Sigley vibe.
It's a magnificent look.
It is. So, I mean, I wish
magnificent.
I could, when I stand in, somebody's doorway, I wish I could look like that.
Exactly.
Striking
And so,
pose.
look, honestly, the movie's off the flyer for me.
Yeah, you were. Yeah,
I was
you
in
were,
hysterics,
You were
wasn't
enjoying it
I?
more than I was at that stage.
The only sequence where I think they kind of got like a bit of choreography right to get a little bit of a scare was when her friend, who I was calling lactose-free Pam Grier, she goes into her bathroom. She's wandering around, and then the killer comes out from behind the shower curtain.
Yep.
And then flicks out the knife. I at least felt, okay, that was okay in terms of what you were going for in a slasher part, because you couldn't see who it was.
Yes.
And they did it quickly. It generated a little bit of a jolt, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. One issue I did have is when he flicked the knife, I thought, gee, this is going to take a while.
It's like carving a ham, a Christmas ham, mate. He would have been there
It was going to be
forever.
like Will Ferrell in Austin Powers. I thought we were just going to get a shot from the other side of the curtain and just keep hearing, "Help me! You've stabbed me very badly."
But it was an okay scene, and I think deep down the filmmakers probably went, "Shit, how did we get that in there?"
Yeah. See, I didn't even. When it happened, I was like, okay, that was the one time I was like, a bit of standard slasher fare. That was okay.
Yeah.
But it wasn't sort of standout.
No.
But then when the rest of the picture came along, it did stand out.
You were harking back to those good old days of that scene in the shower.
Oh, yeah, the good times from in the first.
We go back a long way.
The first 5 minutes of the picture where it looked like they might have known what they were doing.
My favourite bit. Our killer tends to wander the streets and change up his look.
Yeah.
And he goes to his second kill with earwax on a mustache that looked like it was scraped off the road.
Yeah, but we get, thankfully we get shown him applying it with a bit of glue and whatnot, and taking the time to press it on there, which is absolutely necessary, I felt. But
You said a while back.
any sense of scare coming off this bloke was immediately quashed for the rest of the picture.
He looked like a gigolo.
Yeah. Well, I thought once he walked in with the mustache applied, I thought he should have been rolling the arm over in the World Series, against the West Indies, and
off 15 steps
or something like that. And he looked fresh out of the World Series in the 1980s.
But a few episodes back, Jared, you said that you didn't want to see the Punisher making rent. There was no need to see the Punisher making rent.
Yep.
So this must have shit you into the ground. Watching this clown go about his day-to-day business.
Well, the Punisher's someone I want to spend time with. So if I don't want to see the Punisher making rent, I definitely don't want to see this cut-rate slasher.
Applying
fucking
special
special effects skills. Like, it was just ridiculous.
He looks great. Good for a laugh.
Yeah, it was very good for a laugh.
Things fell off for a while. I didn't
We were hoping the mustache was going to fall off. We were begging for a scene with the mustache, especially that scene where he was saying, where the chick says, "Oh, I want to bring my housemate along," and he was saying, "Yeah, you can't be too careful." We were just hoping it was going to.
Yeah, there's all sorts of weirdos floating around.
Getting into a car with him this time. Sorry, what's happening to your mustache? Nothing.
Things went a little bit quiet for a while, but then there's a sequence involving two of the drunkest men alive wandering out of a party in classic Hollywood drug style.
Yeah.
They had party hats on, streamers over their silly looking suits, and they had fucking
stumbling,
blowing party whistles and stuff.
And thankfully, they weren't close enough to hear any dialogue other than it sounded just like them going, "Hey, hey, 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 hey." When they nearly get hit by the car, the volume just raises and they start
remonstrating about it. One of them's carrying a brown paper bag. Always good. Always a good look.
Yeah.
So that elicited some chuckles.
Yeah.
And the only other scene that I felt, in any other person's hands, this could have been all right, was that he tied the final girl with a chain to the bottom of an elevator.
Yes.
And then sent it to the top and then sent it back down.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, this is a really nasty, cool way. Imagine being in that situation and knowing that the bloody thing's coming down and the ground's rushing up towards you. It would have been a really cool it could have been really tense, but it just fell off. It fell off.
It did.
He hung
Especially
her up
when we-
there, and that was it.
But especially when we went into the elevator with the two customers that had gotten into the elevator since they'd vacated, that really kind of wrung the tension out of it as
Why
well.
does it look like a wrestler?
He did look a little bit like, I don't know, he had a bit of a junkyard dog vibe going on there.
Did you have anything else? Because I had nothing.
I had a bunch more likes. They were dislikes, but
you
they
laughed.
were the ones that I laughed at.
Yeah.
I feel like the conversations on the phone were unbelievably poor, but every time they were going on, I was laughing so hard. I thought they were just hilarious.
To put you in the frame, he's using one of those vocoder style
Yeah.
voice modulators.
Yeah.
So it's a 1980, so obviously it's not the top notch technology, but it's got like a little pipe
Yeah.
that goes into your
He's
mouth.
jamming the pipe into his gob.
And he's there going, "My name is Evil,"
He was
and he fucking
dropping
sounds
some
like
of the
he's
lines.
using one of those bloody things that you use when you had your bloody voice box, your
Yeah.
cancer of the throat.
And he started, I mean, the dialogue was absolute disgrace. He was sitting there, as you said, he's saying lines like, call me evil. My favourite was, I am going to commit murder. Like, Jesus Christ.
And my favourite...
Again, bad decision, number one, to use the voice thing if that's what it sounds like. Number two, to show his face while he's doing it all because he's got to stick the thing in his face. Again, any scares that were going to be had from this bloke were just gone because we were just laughing.
The funniest thing about it too is he rings her up and he goes, "My name is Evil," and she goes, he goes, "My name is Evil." You repeat,
He gets
like,
fired
what
up.
the fuck, mate?
Yeah, and then of
Seriously.
course, on top of that, we got the
You
detective.
missed the mark. If she didn't get it the first time, you just got to plunge further into your story.
Yeah, and we've got the on top of that, we've got the detective who's pulling out lines like, he's using some sort of voice processor. And we're sitting there going, yeah, thanks, mate. We figured that out 3 phone calls ago. Because if it's not some person using a voice processor, it's friggin' Dexter from Perfect Match or some other cyborg fucking.
You have a 40% chance of getting killed.
Oh God, it was bad.
It was fucking ridiculous when the copper goes, he rocks up on the scene.
Yep.
After Evil has threatened her.
Yeah.
Fuck, why am I calling him Evil?
Evil. Because my name is Evil. We were also expecting him to go, "My name is Evil," and then break into a bit of whoa.
We think he was an early bandmate Bon Jovi in the early
Yeah, Richie
80s.
said, "Boy," just stumbled along and said, "Oh, what's that
What's
you
this
got there?
thing you got
Shit,
here?
That looks
I'm
interesting."
in the middle of threatening people. Fuck off.
I'll come back later, mate.
But the cop turns up on the scene after he's threatened her, and his immediate response to her is he smirks and goes, "Well, let's face it, you should expect this kind of shit from,
from the
bloody
crowd that
you're talking to." And she
Okay,
goes,
mate.
"So you're not taking this seriously?" And then he goes, "Of course I'm taking it seriously." And I'm thinking, 2 seconds ago you were not taking,
Not taking it seriously. And essentially, basically, you just said, "Look, this is your fault." But seeing some of the crowd that did turn up to the show, look, perhaps he had a point. No,
She
look,
would have a mosh pit going to a fucking love song.
Yeah.
They're all kind of randomly, slowly going
Yeah.
back and forth like this. I'm
they
like,
showed
"Oh,
up at the
my."
door and I can't even. What did I say they looked like? I say they were like bloody Hot Topic, the Hot Topic monsters or something like that. They looked so silly, and they were just once the mosh is going. During the songs where they were like supposed to be up and about, there's a couple of people just kind of
Jostling.
they come to like run into each other and then they just kind of hands around each other. But then they can try to continue that on with the slower song. There's a bloody slow jam going and people are in the crowd kind of swaying and doing all sorts of shit. It looks like I don't know if you've seen Dance of the Dead, but when they discover that the zombies will listen to the music and and the zombies start fucking swaying.
Yeah.
That's what they looked
It
like.
basically did. It looked like but they're all zombified.
Yeah, and we continue to the whole movie. We just go from the killer and then come back to somebody playing a song about and, there's people's bloody swaying, and we get to spend a good 30 seconds with the crowd, which I thought was fantastic after a while.
Didn't Siskel or even say that he was happy to go back to the killer?
I think Siskel was saying that the murders were
a respite
relief.
for having to watch these wankers jump around on stage.
Yeah.
Oh man. Whew.
There was that. Obviously, the other one in my likes was Evil rocking up to the hospital as Jeff. And immediately, within 90 seconds, he's got a bird ready to drop a pants. And
This is what I love about that though. He sneaks in to a sanitarium just by waiting for the guard to come out and then go and run all night.
Yeah.
Then he comes out of a door as Jeff. So he's changed clothes. He looks like an orderly. And he goes, "Tonight's my first night." And she immediately goes, "Give us a look at your dick." And then he says,
some gag of that
then
nature.
he goes, "Oh, it's the first night, I'm nervous, da-da-da-da. I've brought along some wine." And his response is, "How about we bang out some of this before I start?"
Yeah.
And she shows her lack of professionalism by also going, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah. Well, luckily he didn't happen to bump into the bird who would have said, "Have you read the bloody code of conduct?" You've only been here
Take a shit. You know what though? It just so happens he bumps into bloody, Playboy Playmate 1980.
Yeah.
Got fucking Nurse Ratchet who wants to have him killed. Lobotomized for his fucking insubordination.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, lucky that.
Yeah, Ratchet goes, "Get on the lawn!" Oh shit! All right. Next thing you know, he's
man.
bloody washing bedpans and dealing with people with problems.
But then the funny thing is, in terms of the plot, there's no reason for us to see a lot of what's going on in the mental health ward, but we do.
Yeah. Their New Year's celebration looked like a fucking rager. They looked like they were having a great old
They were
time.
having a fantastic time. And then they were allowed to bring out the wind-up toys to sit there and watch while they were going around the table and all sorts of stuff. Jesus.
Big party.
Yeah.
Forget about bloody Times Square.
Yeah, when we come out of there,
You get down to
going.
fucking unknown sanitarium.
we get going, and I'm thinking, why did we have to see the patients? There was no purpose for him to be there other than to get the bird and then say, get back on the phone and say, check that sanitarium. Yeah, it was pretty silly.
Yeah.
But again, it was so silly that it was all laughs while it was going on. One of the best lines of the movie, when he goes into the bar, and again takes him 30 seconds to catch the eye of a lonely girl at the bar.
Yeah. It kind of looks like, because just before that, he walks into the bar, and then we see a counter shot of some other bloke walking up with a beard over two ladies' shoulders and goes, "So who wants to dance or a drink or some shit?" One of them just gets up and fucks off.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking this must be bloody like is this a speed dating sort of joint or something like that?
But yeah, the fact that he walks in and he starts dropping, I've got to get out of here. I've got a big party up at Eric Estrada's place. I bet you do. Eric's got a big pile of coke up there. We're chipping away at it.
Yeah, I got a coke party to get to at Eric Estrada's joint. Oh, by the way, I got to nick someone before fucking 11 o'clock.
Yeah. The other thing too, he was taking a great risk there by lighting up a cigarette while he's got his fake mustache. While he had the lighter there and he was heating it up, I
That
thought
shit was flammable. You got to be careful.
I thought the adhesive might loosen up a little bit. His mustache had come off with his cigarette.
You know what though? You need a cigar. Cigarettes you can't have. You can't have cigarettes involved with that thing. That could have gone up at any moment.
Really, I think the only other one that was a real laugher was when the girls that he does take out of the bar.
Don't they start talking about fucking heat or something, or the weather or something? That's how he actually picks her up.
Yeah, something like that. But then when they get outside and the cops are going to find them, they grab the little
you don't want to
handbag.
hear the Punisher. You don't want to see the Punisher make fucking
No, I don't wanna see the Punisher
but
make
you'll
rent.
see this guy make small talk with some bird in the fucking bar.
I didn't want to see that either. But when it comes, when they go and find the girls, they go and they find the first one like strung up or something.
With a bag over
With a bag
her head,
over
a
her
little bit of
Little bit of
mull
weed.
in the bag.
And the bloody
that's the
Keystone cops
character.
there going, we seem to have an overdose on some sort of substance.
Oh, the old dirt, the vile weed.
But then they go and pick up a little bag, and the girl's head comes sliding backwards down like a slippery dip or something.
Perfectly timed.
Another real laugher. An absolute, like, when you see the shot of the bag, you're immediately going, why do we have a close-up of a handbag?
Yeah.
Or why are we picking it up? Oh, that's why.
Should fall into shot. Classic.
It's ridiculous.
Now look, that's probably a slasher trope. So they probably needed to get a little bit of love for that.
Yeah, but you don't do it sliding down a slippery dip or something
Yeah,
like
you
that.
do. You mix it up.
You don't. You do it bloody falling out of a closet or something stupid like that.
Under a tree. That's the best one.
Yeah, that's it. That was it for the likes.
Okay.
Even some of the dislikes that I had, I still laughed at them.
Okay,
Not
let
quite
me
as
go
much as
for the
those ones.
dislikes. Acting. A disgrace.
Shocking.
Every actor looks like a deer in the headlights.
Yep.
They look. Well, I mean, we mentioned it last episode about Draculas. Draculas.
No. Mate, don't insult the good people that work at Dracula's, because they put on a better show than this.
Yeah, true. All of the actors were fucking atrocious, especially the main girl,
Yeah.
Roz Kelly, who plays Blaze. Terrible. Terrible.
Not a good performance in there.
No. Revealing him as the killer is a disaster.
It
It is an absolute disaster because
But not only that, you put him in a mask briefly.
yeah, and the mask
Why?
was acceptable.
Well, it looked kind of, like I said to you, it kind of came off as like a Happy Death Day kind of one.
Yeah.
Like,
Cherub
could have
style.
done the job. Bit of a chuckle.
But showing him, it means there's absolutely zero mystery. So there's nothing to keep you sort of invested
Yep.
in what's going on.
Pretty tough to build a mystery when you've got 4 characters.
Exactly. And it tries to have the son character
Yeah.
as kind of like a... I don't even think it's meant to be a red herring.
No.
It's just a ridiculous tap on at the end. But he's fucking wandering around with a stocking pulled over his head.
Yeah. Well, I cottoned onto it immediately. Like, because I said to you, the son walks in with a look on his face like he's just bloody, I don't know, he's just fucking drunk a bloody warm beer or something like that. Then he comes in and he's kind of looking away from his mother and clutching his roses and
Yeah.
making these funny faces.
And we
And then,
keep...
I'm not, going into the spoilers and whatever, but he's clutching his roses and he says, I can't get onto Dad. And I said to you, he's acting a little bit like he's on the nose, this bloke.
Yeah, definitely.
And then when we saw the other guy,
I mean, classic canon.
we saw the
nuance.
other guy, and we don't see anybody else. And I said to you, is that Dad? And then as we go on, there's no other path to take because there's no other characters and no other. And I mean, you said no, it's red herring. The son's a red herring, and I'm thinking you might be right because it's really early in the film, but then we keep going and there's no other characters.
And then we cut back to the son and he's ramming his head into a stocking.
Okay, I think I might be onto something.
Picking up the phone and nothing happens, puts the phone back down, face all squawked.
Yeah.
He looks bloody ridiculous.
So I mean, the story was an absolute shambles too, and his motivation was peak bloody 1980s attitudes to women.
yeah.
It's like-
Well, coming to his motivation, He basically says that he seems to have a problem with women. He's only getting an allowance from his missus.
She's more successful
You,
than
ma-
him.
you bloody cut my balls off, basically.
Yeah, so now I'm
I was
going to go around and kill
emasculated.
everyone else. And you're not going to do it to our son.
Take your pick,
Come
dude.
on, mate. Like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
You got an issue that you're on the gravy train?
Was
Jesus
there an
Christ.
allowance issue? Did you need to discuss raising it? That's a discussion, not a murder
I
spree.
have 350 this month.
350 to 400. I mean, it was 1980. That went a long way. After hookers and crack, there was more.
Yeah, and if it's that bad, let's get some mediation happening.
Have a discussion. Don't kill everyone. I don't understand.
This is counterproductive. Next month there will be no allowance because you'll be in prison.
Yeah.
I'll be sending you bloody tickets to the commissary.
Yeah. There you got an allowance of bloody cigarettes.
Give me a 2-packet of noodles today.
But it's that the whole revelation at the end was just kind of like just a jumble of crap. Like it was a word salad of why he wanted to murder everybody who had no connection to her.
The whole movie was a jumble of crap. Yeah, there was no
connection. So the only one that he killed that knew her was lactose-free Pam Grier. The rest of them,
were just random.
yeah.
The locations were random.
Why are you killing someone in the sanitarium? What
I
was
don't
that
know.
pickup for?
I don't know.
Then he killed the other two girls in his car,
Yep.
basically. And then, what was the next murder? He just stabbed a bloke.
Well, he takes the girl from the drive-in.
He doesn't kill her, but he stabbed a bloke
Doesn't
before
stab the bloke
that.
before that. Doesn't kill the girl because she gets away. Let's not forget the whole time he's doing this, he's dressed as a priest.
Oh, man. And then also...
gets into a bloody back and forth.
Gets into a blue with... Runs over a couple of bikies, then gets into a blue with them and drives to a drive-in to try and hide.
Which is, between the second killings and that, there's about 20 minutes where most of it's with him.
Yeah, so you don't even see Blaze.
Don't even see Blaze. There's no connection to her whatsoever. There's no story for her.
Shit. Oh, I just don't
Absolute
get
shocker. Oh my God, Canon Pictures. The gift that keeps on giving.
Ah, brilliant. I didn't have any other dislikes. I mean, I think I covered it all there. Have you got anything else?
I had 2.
What are they?
There was the straight up rip off of the
Oh, yeah.
that comes
The
out.
music in general was a fucking
Music's shocking.
shambles.
I mean, there's scenes where there's people talking for like 3 minutes, and then you realise that the whole time the song that the band is playing at the show is still going in the background. That New Year's Evil song is on in the movie.
50 times.
I think it's in it 3 times.
But there's
at least.
also this synthesised kind of score that sort of goes... It sounds like a fucking disco beat.
I thought he was playing that from the boombox that he was carrying to record all his crimes on.
Now again, I don't think that's how that works. I don't think it was on the TV when he kills the nurse. I think it was on the radio.
Oh, I thought he was recording the TV and then
countdown.
recording the nurse.
The countdown was on the radio, I'm sure. Where was the
No,
TV?
the TV was in the little room they were watching.
Yeah, but that was the sanitarium patients. He was in another room.
Oh, I thought they had a little TV as well.
I don't think so.
Well, either way, it doesn't
Again,
really
I don't
matter.
think-
It's still stupid either way.
At one point, he mentions how it's top-notch technology.
Yeah, it is. Look at it.
Well, I guess it was back then. What's the other one?
The other one is, and this is talking about the genres and the understanding, the Go-Go Boys and their
lack of understanding
of the nuance, the subtlety, the standard tropes, the minimum requirements that you have to meet to be considered part of the genre.
Yeah.
Why are we finishing up a slasher with a shootout and a chase?
Yeah. And leaving off
We
a
have a
building.
shootout. We have a shootout with the killer. The killer comes equipped with a pistol, starts, firing from the doorway with a few police, and then runs up to the roof.
It's stupid.
I'm watching it. and
Again, I'm just
what-
not sure
what are we
whether
going
this
for here?
this is always.
That's where it
classified-
got back to Columbo type territory.
Yeah.
Not that Columbo had a lot of shootouts, if I
No, it
recall,
didn't.
but
Kojak.
Kojak territory.
Kojak would have plenty. The thing about it is, this is always classified as a slasher film, but I think looking at it, it's not really. It's kind of like a thriller, maybe.
Fails at that too.
Well, if you can, I mean, look,
So, okay, so tell me this.
I believe it's a hybrid
Why?
thriller with no thrills.
Yeah, you failed to do what we asked in the title of the podcast.
We asked you to fucking thrill me. Bloody wankers, come on.
No, so tell me this. If it's a thriller,
Yeah.
why do we go with the poster? That is classic slasher poster.
True.
Why do we straight out rip off the
I
at
don't
that
know.
time? Like,
Again,
I think you're right.
I think
It is thriller.
they positioned it as a slasher because they thought 1980.
and by this point, Halloween's been out.
Friday the 13th has just come out.
Yep.
Yep.
Like,
So we position ourselves in the slasher market, even though we don't have a
and we make
slasher.
a thriller and finish it with a shootout.
Yeah. We don't actually have a slasher, but we'll just repurpose it into what we think is a slasher.
Because the poster and the title
Yeah. Exactly.
screams
Scream slasher.
Slasher.
So what they've done is they've tried to market it in slasher
You
territory.
put the mask on the poster, you didn't put it in the movie. Come on, Canon. Shit.
No wonder your 20 best films are absolute shit.
Although we did come across Firekeeper and Firewalker and decide we want to check that one out.
Well, I think that's on Amazon Prime.
Is it?
Do some research.
Shit, I'll watch that tonight.
Is that everything you've got?
Yeah, that's everything. I can't kick it too much more than that.
Oh, God. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Couldn't recommend it to anyone.
No. Oh, look. No, have a look at it. It's on YouTube. Have a look.
Oh, if I wanted you to have a shit start to the new year, I still wouldn't recommend it to you. I'd go a little easier on
I
it.
will actually say, and I said this to you while we were watching it, a slasher could work in Times Square on New Year's Eve, just
Yeah.
like you said about Hellfest.
Well, I brought up Hellfest and you doubled over and laughed at it.
No, but I mean, the Hellfest idea of
Yeah.
a murder in a
New
large
Year's
group
Eve
of
party,
people
like-
is a good one.
Well, that's...
And in fact, Terror Train, fuck, Terror Train's a New Year's Evil slasher.
Is it?
Yeah, it's set on New Year's Eve on the train.
Why did we watch that?
What are we doing?
Well, that's
Jesus
your fault.
Christ.
You could have reminded me of that.
Oh, mate,
It's probably sitting in that stack right next to you there.
we need to freshen up in 2020. We need to smarten up our game.
Coming New Year's 2020. Terror Train, look out for it.
Train.
If we forget, somebody please remind us. I think we actually, you know what?
And if one of
I've
us,
gotta say,
if
I
one
think
of us
we-
goes New Year's Evil again,
I
because
think-
we're pretty thick, we don't realise we've already done it.
Well, staying on the thick sort of train of thought there, I think we brought this up last year. Terror Train.
So
And we kept it
we've
in
had multiple opportunities.
we kept it in the skyrocket for this year.
We've had multiple opportunities to get this done, and we proceed to grab this shit instead.
Oh, well.
Because look, Terror
Well, the
Train.
only way is up. 2020 is looking better than 2019.
Terror Train shits all over this, and it's
Yeah,
not even
Terror
a
Train's
classic
all right.
slasher either. It's not great slasher
But it's
stuff.
better than
It's
this.
better than this.
And it ticks the boxes. The Go-Go Boys.
What boxes?
What boxes?
All right, okay. Let's take a break. And we'll come back and we will give you our 5 best and worst films of 2019.
Happy New Year to you, Blaze.
Ooh, some kind of voice you got there. Sound like the Phantom.
You could call me that.
So you got a name, Phantom?
Call me Evil.
Evil? You bad, honey.
No. Just evil.
All right. Unfortunately, due to the magic of podcasting, we couldn't get any extra people on board. It's just Jared and I still. Yeah, look at the clout we have. But we're going to do a quick run through. The pair of us are going to give our top 5 best and worst for 2019. We're going to start with the worst, Jared.
Yep.
I'm coming straight out of the gate at number 5 for me. Actually, no, I'm going to come with a couple of honourable mentions. And I think we disagree on this, but I had honourable mentions with Child's Play, which it wasn't shithouse. And a bit the same with my other honourable mention, which is Ready or Not. They were not shithouse, but they just did not work for me at all.
Yeah.
Child's Play probably more so worked for me.
Yeah.
Because I felt there were some moments in Child's Play that I kind of liked. They got things right, but it just overall was not an experience I was that happy with.
See, Child's Play, my feeling on that was that it actually did work all right.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it needed to be a Child's Play. That was my biggest issue. It didn't need to be chucky.
Yeah, it probably could have been probably would have been more accepted.
They just took a movie that was like, I mean, for me, you could have made that movie and said it's inspired by Chucky.
Yeah.
Because that's what we love, but we're doing it for a new generation or whatever. But they just sort of the movie doesn't get made unless they say we've got a Child's Play movie.
Well, that's it. They basically used a name.
Yeah.
To get it going. Do you have any honourable mentions there on the worst?
I do.
Yes.
Happy Death Day to You.
Ooh, interesting. That's in my 5.
Yeah, I don't think it was in the 5 worst movies I saw by any stretch. I saw a bunch of movies that were worse than this, but it was a disappointment factor for me that the first one was so good.
Yeah.
And then this one, I don't necessarily dislike the genre switch so much, but I just felt that the concept in the first time around worked so well as a slasher, and this one took so much time setting up the science of it.
Yeah.
Or trying to set up the science of it,
And
that it was just a real disappointment. And I think that it probably speaks more to my feelings on the first one.
Yeah.
How much I liked the first one.
Yeah, the first one was gold.
In terms of disappointment factor, it probably hits my honourable mentions there.
Got any other honourable mentions?
No, that was it.
Well, I rolled that in at 5, and I'm with you. It was about disappointment.
Yeah.
The first one was such a good movie. Like, such a good movie. Like, I remember watching it again more recently with my little nephew.
Yep.
And just thinking, this is just great. It's just such a good movie. The setup works. The acting is fantastic. The whole thing, it just works.
Yeah.
And then, so I was super excited about the sequel. But basically, they almost dropped the slasher element. Probably for good reason. They probably had no... it just didn't feel like they didn't really know where they were going.
Yeah.
And to take all that time...
I think they ended up recycling ideas from the first one.
Yeah.
Which wasn't so bad, but I just thought... There's something there. There's always a way that you can come up with an idea, but I guess they had to strike while it was still a property that people wanted to see at the time. Although it turned out that wasn't the case anyway.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of a reflection on what
probably the quality
did to the fans of the first one, I guess.
Yeah. What's your 5th worst?
My 5th is, again, it's probably not the worst in this crop.
Yep.
But it's a heavy disappointment factor. Glass.
Yeah, I had it much higher up
for
me. But it was very, very poorly dealt with.
Well, I'll let you save your feelings for that for when you drop it on your.
Yep.
But my number 5 for me, Glass. Just the disappointment of seeing those characters just fall off with a whimper. Really, like the length of time that we kind of had to wait, and then seeing the trailer that seemed to indicate we're gonna get something solid here. So I was never Split for me was enjoyable, but it wasn't something that I was really I'm so excited to see these cross over. It was more that Split kind of brought this back into we're going to get these characters back.
Yes.
And I actually think sometimes they manage to work quite well together. for a couple of portions of the movie, but it was just such a disappointing experience to sit there and just see this story not really unfold. It
Yeah.
just kind of just die in front of us.
And I got where they were trying to go,
Yeah.
but it was just so heavy-handed. And
Yep.
to spend so much time with... To me, the most interesting character of all of those guys is David Dunn.
Yeah.
And to spend so little time with him...
Yep.
And again, I read a review that kind of indicated that, like, it felt like you basically had the actors for a certain amount of time.
Mm.
And so you just...
Well, Sammy Jackson was underused as well.
So we quickly shoot a few days with him and a few days with him and a few days with him.
And thinking
then
that
try and squeeze them together.
the promise of this kind of grand plan, too. He'd been concocting this plan while he was locked away with the Beast.
Yeah, no.
It just... no.
It just was stupid. And to not have... To me, David Dunn's the most interesting guy. And to look deeper into where he had gotten to
Yeah.
after so long would have been where I would have gone.
Yep.
And then you suddenly put him face to face with Elijah Price, who suddenly got the Beast as his muscle. And that's where you're going.
I guess the positive of it is it makes you want to go watch Unbreakable again.
Yeah,
Go relive
And
that experience
Unbreakable's not hindered by
again. No.
having glass in the cannon.
Nope.
Yeah, big disappointment.
What about you? Number 5.
My number 5 was Happy Death Day to You. My number 4 is Black Christmas.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
The way they were going, what they wanted to do, was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But then they just fucking got so heavy-handed with it, and it didn't work. It was PG rated, essentially, so it was bloodless.
Yeah.
Which then also undercut it. It threw in a couple of coolish ideas, but then never went far enough forward with them. All over it. And then the ending was just... bloody hell. I was just in the cinema just shaking my head, just going, oh my God. So it's definitely not one to be rushing out and seeing, I wouldn't have thought. Not in the cinema. I think it's probably already gone.
Yeah, it has.
But,
Pretty sure it has.
Check it out on streaming.
Yep. I'll be there.
What was your number 4?
Number 4. Now, you know what? I don't think I actually confirmed that this was released in 2019. I'm pretty sure it was. Hellboy.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah. So I'm glad to say I had something on my least anticipated.
Took the cave to
landed
fruition.
right where I thought it would. Yeah, man, just a stinker.
Nothing good at all.
David Harbour being involved, Neil Marshall. I guess, you know, there wasn't the anticipation from me, obviously. I felt when you saw the trailers and stuff that it was starting to see kind of writing on the wall, but it was just a bit of a mess, like dodgy special effects at times, just wasting really good actors and essentially attempting to start a franchise and just fucking stomping it into the ground again. So,
Mate, there is no
it's-
excuse for shit special effects when you got 50 million in the cannon in the pocket.
No.
There's zero excuse for that.
No.
You should have a top-notch mob involved.
And it's just, I mean, seeing someone like David Harbour that seems to be like spot on for a role and just then getting left with material that's not quite there and
Yeah.
dealing with, you know, as happens when something like this goes on, all the finger pointing.
Yeah, that was the
starts
worst part
going
about
on
it.
and- yeah.
Is everybody started pointing fingers. I mean,
Yeah.
there was half a dozen articles essentially saying who was in the wrong
Yeah.
on this project, and I'm thinking, so nobody
I'd
was in.
suggest everybody.
Yeah.
It was
Instead of
pretty
just
rough.
putting their hand up and saying, listen, we all cocked it up.
See, because I mean, it started with the producers. It sounded like they were pulling power moves, but then it sounded like David Harbour wasn't listening to the director. But then it came out that Neil Marshall was pulling for the woman that he's with to get a role in there, and the producers didn't want to give it to her. So
Yeah.
it's like, it sounds like everyone's got issues here.
Yeah,
Like,
everyone was involved in some capacity of cocking it all up.
Yeah.
Which is sad because that shit has potential, and the first film that was done
Yeah.
was really good.
and Neil Marshall's resume of previous work is just like the man is.
He
he's
seemed like
done
the guy
such
for
good
the
work.
job.
Yeah. I
Which
don't know.
it makes it even worse. All right, number 3, as I said, Glass was my number 3. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go any further. We just
go
spoke
on,
about
give us
it.
another.
Look, it was a shit of a film.
I have a few thoughts on it.
Again, look, I'm with you in the grand plan stuff. I always thought about this. This was something that Shyamalan had in the background ever since Unbreakable. Bullshit.
Yeah. He was foxing.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
He never thought about this. This is why Unbreakable is such a good movie, because it's not connected to these other ones.
Yeah.
Until he decided to foosed it in the end of Split.
Yeah.
So,
and it's such a different, like the first one was obviously steeped in comic book lore and sort of putting a different spin on it, and the next one you just like, I don't know where all this came from. It's just there.
It just was a real miss.
Yeah.
Across the board. So what's your number 3?
Another comic book property, Dark Phoenix.
I didn't get to see that one, but I heard it was shocking.
Can't recommend it enough.
I heard it was shocking.
It was boring. It was really boring, which is...
Can't be said for most of the X-Men
that's
films.
it. Like, oftentimes...
Even the bad ones are still...
Yeah, even the bad ones, you still get a few exciting kind of action sequences or whatever, but it was so dull. And you get someone like Jessica Chastain playing the villain and just don't use it. Well, she just gets, don't use it, but she just gets this really baffling role to play, and by the end of it drags on so long, but by the end of it, your brain's just friggin' numb. I had lost total investment in the movie at about the hour mark, and the fucking thing just kept on plugging away, pushed on past 2 hours. It was such a tough watch. It was a really tough watch. So yeah, that was. I know. Again, we kind of knew this was happening
because we already were hearing things about it being a piece of shit.
Yeah, we kind of knew it was happening beforehand, but I didn't expect it to be as boring as it was.
Okay.
Very tedious. Yeah, that one.
Number 2. I'm getting a slightly controversial here.
Mm-hmm.
My number 2 is Rambo, Last Blood.
What's controversial about putting a shit
Because
movie
I
on
would
your
have put
shit
it...
list?
Most people... Initially, I was thinking it was top.
Yeah.
Definite top.
Yep. I'm pretty sure I know where you're going here.
My problem with this was... Now, anyone who really wants to find out how bad it was... Check out our episode, because Gibbo just goes off about it. And he's 100% correct. You take this character that we've known and loved for a long, long time, and I felt like bringing him back for one last go. I always had my reservations that this was a mistake, because I really liked the way he ended it with Rambo in 2009. But... something about me inside was saying, well, I hold out hope that he's going to do something interesting with it.
There was still an ember.
There was an ember still burning. And he did nothing interesting with it.
No.
In fact, he turned it into the most fucking tedious mess of a revenge flick with a 70-year-old man wandering around gruesomely killing people. It had absolutely no depth. It had nothing.
Yep.
And Rambo's, wouldn't we have wanted to go back and sort of get back closer to First Blood? To sort of wrap the whole thing up? But nah. What we need is gruesome violence with no apparent reason for it. And it was just shit.
Yes, it was.
Your number 2?
Well, I think you've probably... I'm sure you've got a few words to say about this one, and I think I know where this is going, but my number 2 is Six Underground.
Yep. That's my number 1.
Yeah, it was just $150 million of absolute waste of time.
150 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know what Ryan Reynolds was thinking. Like, I don't know if he reads a script and just thinks, I can punch this up with ad-libbing my... dialogue, but I don't think I've ever disliked a Ryan Reynolds character more than the one that I did in this movie.
Yeah.
He is so poorly constructed as a character. There is just nothing there other than money and punchlines, and the punchlines are just annoying. They're not funny. there's nothing built up between any of the characters. The action is so overdone that you are just, it's like pushing your head into a fucking meat grinder or something. You can't take it. You can't take it anymore. And it was just a huge disappointment, even for a Michael Bay film. Like the last few Bay films that we've got, I know this is what we expect from the bloke. I don't expect it to be anything kind of outside of the realm of what we got. But there was just this inkling of, okay, well, Netflix has given it to Bay. It's going to be all Bay. We're really going to find out if this is all he's got, or whether he's still, something like the Bad Boys and the Armageddons, where we enjoyed that kind of action, whether there's still something of that there.
Yeah.
And I think we found out that
there isn't.
I don't know, maybe producers had been curbing the bloke. Because if he got free creative reign on this one, I mean, I wouldn't be giving him any more money to make movies like this. They're just dreadful.
No. And, people would argue that Rambo was a worse film, but I disagree. At least I could see what was happening in Rambo, as much as I didn't want to. I could see what was happening in the action scenes.
Yeah.
I could not make out hide nor hair of anything in Six Underground.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell who the fuck was doing what. I didn't know any of the characters. I didn't know their names. I didn't know their backgrounds. I didn't know anything about them. So you spend 150 minutes.
It's a problem that you didn't know their names when they didn't actually have names. They had 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You still
I didn't know who the fuck they were. And they even tries to throw in a scene where they tell everyone their name. But I was kind of like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, no one cared.
Like, I couldn't tell you which number the English parkour guy was. I couldn't tell you. The only one I can remember is Ryan Reynolds, because he was one.
Pretty sure the English bloke was number 4, but I could be wrong.
Fuck, it was just a shambles.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And
I don't even know if there was even a script.
Agreed. I just think it was just, we'll take $150 million and we'll just do whatever we want and we'll put it on screen and people will watch it.
Yeah.
And fuck, I was stupid enough to watch it.
Yeah. It's just it's just a bunch of set pieces.
Oh, it was but it was headache inducing.
It was.
I mean,
It
I
really
desperately wanted to stop watching it, but I just couldn't. I felt I had to tough through it.
Yeah.
And it was a hard slog, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Are you a better person for being able to mentally being able to keep yourself together through 130 minutes of that?
No, it was... Yeah, it was 135.
Fuck.
I thought it was 150, but I was wrong on that front. I guess it was a little bit short of it. Christ, it was terrible.
It felt like 250.
I just think that maybe with a strong producer, Bay they're able to take out some of that overindulgence and keep him on track.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, something like The Rock and Armageddon were enjoyable pictures, because the guy's style lends itself nicely to them, but he was kept on a shorter leash.
Yeah.
He's just been let loose here, and I don't know if Netflix really bothered to look into it. And they just punch out this pile of shit.
But I mean, surely you can make this for less than $100 million.
Yeah.
You just, I don't know, you have to, get smaller boats, use smaller buildings.
Well, you make it 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't make it 2 hours and 15.
Yeah.
Add that extra 40-minute set piece.
I see, I don't know what it is that whoever's making these movies thinks that we want to watch this for 2 hours, and they're under some delusion that this is worth 2 hours and 15 minutes of our time. Like, at least some of these shit peddlers that are making, dodgy little action flicks know that we want a few punch-ups and we want it in 90 minutes.
Yeah. We want it quick. Baby. Don't muck around.
There's not many. I mean, if you're making the next Die Hard, great. Make it go for 2 hours. But if you're watching or reading the script of this movie and then watching what you're producing early on in the movie and thinking, this is the next Die Hard, you are sorely mistaken.
But you know what, though? I've said this many times. An action scene needs to raise the fucking adrenaline for a short period of time.
Yep.
Not 35 minutes.
Yeah. But I mean, the biggest crime of this is that it goes for 35 minutes and not once does it raise the adrenaline levels.
My pulse was not racing at all.
No.
All I was thinking was, I remember sitting there for the opening sequence, and I'm just shaking my head, going, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah. That opening sequence is is just dreadful.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Okay,
Right.
number one for you.
Yeah, Rambo.
I got him.
Yeah.
Stallone.
It was close. It
Is he
was
Stallone
very
off?
close.
Was Stallone off the
Well,
Christmas
see, I
card
still
list?
I still have a fondness for Stallone, so maybe I should have put Six Underground at number one as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm losing any sort of fondness for Michael Bay.
no.
I mean, you're making Ryan Reynolds unlikable. That's really tough to do. Even in his bad movies, you like the guy.
Yeah, that's right. Is it the same as Stallone?
No, I still love Stallone.
You love Sylvester.
He just whiffed badly.
Yeah.
I felt like the setup could have been fine.
Look, he was coming together beautifully.
He was coming together beautifully. When I saw the pictures of him looking like the Marlboro Man, I thought, this is fantastic. I can't wait. But from the opening bit with the horse or the donkey or whatever in the hills, I thought, we could be in some trouble here. And then, talking about poorly drawn representations of Mexico and Mexican people and the way things play out.
Do you think anyone involved with the production went to Mexico?
I don't think
Get
so.
a feel for the
I think
place?
they went to Taco Bell for lunch. That was about it. I didn't even really like the way that we got to the revenge. I felt like the characters were just used for, obviously used to set up that purpose, but you didn't want things to end the way they did, and when they did, rather than feeling, he's really got to take revenge here, you felt that's a fucking cheap way to set this up, Sly.
Yeah.
You were a bit sort of dirty on the writing of it all, rather than invested in the people in the movie. When it all goes down at his ranch, that was, I must say, I was kind of sitting back for 5 minutes going, holy shit, this is pretty full on. But even then, some of them were misfires. There was a couple of things where you think, gee, that's a bit grotesque. Come on, Sylvester. And this is from a franchise, there's some of the stuff that happens to people in Rambo 4.
I remember there's a photo that I got, a still from the film, and I believe I put it on the episode when we put it out.
Yeah.
And it's Rambo with his giving us a sort of a scream, and he's got his machete raised,
Yeah.
and he looked like fucking Jason Voorhees without his mask on. And I was just like, oh my god. You know what? He was Jason Voorhees though in the film.
Basically, yeah.
He was just, look, Sylvester just missed the mark.
Yeah, he did.
On it, and he seems to really know Rocky well,
Yeah.
but seems to have forgotten what made Rambo so interesting
Yeah.
was First Blood.
Can't wait for the next one, though.
I can't wait till the 80-year-old just fucking chopping people's legs off and stuff with machetes in his ranch.
Yeah, Rambo in the bloody nursing home or something. What's it going to be called? Not Last Blood? Rambo Blood Bags or something?
It's going to be blood transfusion. Jesus Christ. I don't want to see another Rambo film.
Yes, you do.
And in fact,
yeah, you do.
as I said, I was leery about it from the start. The trailer came out, I was immediately on board.
Look,
And then,
let's be honest, we were all leery about it from the start, but we were having a bit of fun with it. And then we saw the trailer and actually got a bit excited.
Yeah.
How do we handle these feelings?
oh yeah, look, I was conflicted. There's no doubt about that. I was conflicted about how I felt about the guy, and I just feel maybe Rocky's easier to write for because it's about understanding your flaws as a human, and getting older works in the Rocky franchise.
Rocky hasn't gone to Mexico yet.
No,
so.
he hasn't.
But I mean, Rocky had similar things when he went to Russia.
Oh fuck! So Sly had form for this kind of bullshit. We didn't see the red flags.
We should have known.
We should have known. All right, okay, let's get into some the best of. Okay.
Okay.
Now I've got an honourable mention, and it's not an action film or a horror movie. I just wanted to mention it. Toy Story 4
Yeah.
was
Great.
awesome. Like, the Toy Story franchise is the quality has been so high,
Yep.
and even with 4, I was thinking, no, there's got to be a dip.
You're fucking flying off the brief here, mate.
I know it's well off, but I just thought I'd mention it because it was a really good movie.
Yep.
You're four movies in,
Yeah.
you usually don't get this kind of quality.
Yep.
Hence Rambo Last Blood. Sorry, as I mentioned it, but that's just an honourable mention, just on the side. What about you? Do you have any honourable mentions?
Yeah, I do. You're
Yeah.
not going to like this one.
What?
Us.
Yeah, I didn't hate us.
It's not in my top 5 because I felt the overall quality of it just it fell apart a little bit. But there's sequences of it that I love, and the thing about it for me is, even with it not really hitting home, me not coming out thinking that's a 5 out of 5, that one, or like I'm probably more of a 3 out of 5 with that, and I don't think it's as good as Get Out, but similar to Get Out, I want to go back to it. I keep thinking about things from it, and I want to watch it again. I've got the Blu-ray in there with the commentary, and I'm going to go through that. I love the way the guy makes the movies, and there's sequences of it that still he nailed. I think there's good solid 10-15 minute stretches of the movie that I think are fantastic. So
There are moments in it I liked. I think the hype worked against it for me.
well, the
The hype was
there,
through
like-
the roof, and then when I saw it, and as I said, the actual where we got to what was going on, and I started laughing, and
Well,
I
the thing for
felt
me,
it looked
but
ridiculous.
I mean, I saw that too, and I didn't like it, but I didn't laugh. I didn't.
and I thought maybe the hype's too high, and I went in.
Well, this
Because
is the
Get
thing,
Out.
mate.
So the thing is, Get Out was so good.
But the thing for me is, I had the same. I mean, I was probably even more hyped. I know you weren't. There was times when you weren't as excited for it.
No,
I went in and watched it, and as I said, I'm not saying the movie was as good as I was hoping for. It wasn't. But I've consistently gone back and thought about things from that movie, and there's other movies that I've seen throughout the year and probably liked better, but haven't thought about again. Whereas this one, and this is what I like about the guy, I want to go back and watch parts of it again, and I start thinking about things, or then I read someone else's take on something, and I think, shit, I
It's
better
funny
check that
that-
out again. Like, I just think he's got something there where the visuals and the imagery are really good, but he's obviously put a hell of a lot of time into this. I think,
look.
for me, I think the subtext, him trying to put the subtext and the message, kind of overruled the scary movie aspect of it this time.
Yeah.
Which is what he nailed with Get Out.
yeah,
This time around, there was obviously the messages there, but when we got to the ending, I think rather than looking for something that was, and I didn't take it as badly as you, like obviously you said it didn't land at all for you. I got there and I'm like, I didn't love that.
nah.
But it was obviously trying to say something, and rather than getting a real sort of scare and a real knock it out of the park sort of
Well,
ending.
put it
like
this
Get
way:
Out got.
at least he's putting things out there. He's questioning things. He's making interesting.
Yeah.
He's putting interesting ideas on the table.
We'll put it this way: the guy could, his next movie, essentially, I could watch it, and the trailer could be like, I don't know, The Fanatic, and I'd still be like, I got to
Interested
get
to
to this.
see
I
where
got to
it
get to
went.
this day one because I loved Get Out. This one I really liked, but as I said, I can't stop. I really just want to keep going back to it. And so the next one, he's just built up this kind of cache and this. I think he's got a bank of interesting ideas there that I'm really keen to see.
Yeah.
So that's
He probably
that's-
has.
I guess that's what
It's funny for
what
me
come out of it
because-
with. And that's why it didn't make my top 5. Like I'm talking about how much I want to go back to it, but it's not one of. I didn't think it was probably one of the best 5.
It's
that I could
interesting you say that because
Yeah.
something like Hereditary, I think about going back to that
Yeah, yeah.
anytime.
Yep.
I haven't thought about that movie at all.
Check
The
out
moment-
Midsummer. You'll love it.
You told me it was fucking. You were baffled. I still am.
Oh, I am. I'm baffled by it.
The moment I left us, I never thought of it again.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, nah, that's it. That's that. I won't be seeing that again. I'm not really that interested in it. And I think it was just because once again, it just didn't find the mark for me.
Yeah. See, I'm hooked up in all these
Whereas,
ideas about
Hereditary,
being your own.
something like Hereditary, I was like, fuck. You know, what the
yeah.
hell's this? You know, and you kept thinking about where it all went and what it was all about.
Yeah, well, it's in the same ballpark for me. Like,
and I guess
Hereditary is that's something I've gone back to twice now.
he is
sort of got those.
he, at the very
things
least,
again.
is stretching and looking for new things in horror,
Yeah.
which is, you know, we probably need more of that.
Yeah.
Even though I believe horror had a pretty good year, some of it was, you know, was pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of the ones I've gone with
Yep.
were standard.
Yeah.
They were just enjoyable standard.
Yeah.
Which I think is what I was kind of looking for.
Yeah, and I was hoping beforehand that this would be one of those top 5 ones for me, but it just it fell short. But I just can't. I'm still intrigued by it. So yeah.
So you're my number 5.
Mhm.
Best. This might be, you know, it all came down to how much you were going to enjoy this, because it wasn't as good as the first part. But I went with It, Chapter 2.
Yep.
I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It was a little bit long, and at times a little boring.
Yep.
And it did have this tendency to kind of like just have set pieces
Yeah.
with nothing connecting any of it. It was just like, they're walking around town, they're all running into Pennywise again.
Yep.
And some of them were really good, some of them weren't. But overall, I felt if you watch the two films together, I think you'd find it fits in okay.
Yeah.
Just not up to par with the first one.
Pretty much what you've said there is why it's not near mine.
Yeah.
Is because it doesn't work. I don't think it works all that well independently of the first one.
No. I had a good time with
the
it.
first one, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've already purchased. I've got it,
But-
got it there to go back to again. But
I would watch the first one any time.
yeah, and I would go to the two of them together again for sure.
Yes.
I just felt it wasn't as consistently good as the first one.
Yeah.
Which
It
you
wasn't.
pretty much said
Definitely
there, so-
wasn't. Definitely. It had its problems.
Yep.
But it also, I think, also threw a few things in there that I liked.
Yeah.
Some of the actors were really good.
Yep.
There was a lot of good things to like about it.
Yeah.
But I felt that maybe just trimmed.
Yeah.
Could have been trimmed a bit. It
Well, as I
didn't
said,
need
I
certain
think
things.
I pretty much had the same criticisms, but even with them, the last half hour I was really satisfied with.
Yeah.
Even with some of the silly things that went on, I just kind of, when it was all wrapped up, I was kind of satisfied.
Yeah.
Which was...
What's your number
I was happy
5?
enough with that. My number 5 is Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's coming for a bit of pepper, this one. And
Yeah, well, I probably didn't give it as much raps as I sort of when I watched it, but yeah, it was quite good. I wasn't really expecting all that much from it, and I'm not even that big a fan of The Shining.
No.
I do have an appreciation for it, but I just don't. It's not the sort of film that I'm going to put in the classic sort of status. It's not.
Yeah.
I understand why people like it, and I understand kind of what makes it work, but it's just not in my wheelhouse, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised that I enjoyed this one as much as I did. It's sort of Mike Flanagan again just has an ability to kind of wring what you can out of a story.
Yep.
I think for me the best thing he's done is The Haunting of Hill House. I love that. But this one is kind of classic sort of recent King in that it's the story that he's got to work with is fairly solid, but not classic King. But what he gets out of that for the movie is really, really fun, really, really enjoyable stuff, and he manages to do a really good job of appeasing King's vision of what he wanted for Jack Torrance and Danny Torrance, but then taking you back to, I mean, you go back to the Overlook and it's Kubrick's Overlook, you know. So yeah, I really appreciated that because he had a very tough job to do. A bit disappointing that it probably didn't make the money. I know Stephen probably didn't have a hot dinner for Christmas this year.
He had a cold lunch. He had a cold lunch.
couldn't afford to give presents to the family.
He was wrapping up cold lumps.
But yeah, I would say if you're a King fan, you're probably going to be happy with it.
Yep.
So that's mine.
Mine at number 4 was a Netflix original that I was extremely disinterested in when I first heard about it, and I chucked it on one day, and that is Shaft.
Yeah.
the version of Shaft that they did was I really enjoyed it.
Wow.
Really enjoyed it. Surprised me greatly.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching the Sammy Jackson one
Yep.
on his own and thinking, pretty average.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty average. This one was really cool, the way they had all three shafts in it. It had the right amount of, action and a little bit of cracking wise. It was a bit of a turn your brain off, but I had a great time with it. And I think that's the reason why it's in here for me is because that was a prerequisite for me when I'm watching something like that. I wanted to have a good time, and I got exactly what they were offering.
But you didn't want your brain to be turned off as much as a Six Underground.
No. And surprisingly, I could see what was going on.
Yeah.
So, to me, it was a big surprise because I had nothing but low expectations for this one.
Yep. Interesting.
What do you got for us here?
So mine was Ready or Not.
Ready or Not?
I had the complete opposite feelings to you on this one. I loved it.
No, I didn't hate it. I just didn't. Kind of was middling.
Give it a mention in your worst.
Yeah, no, honourable mention, mate. Honourable mention.
No, I thought
it just didn't work for me.
I thought it was excellent. I thought for starters, it's a concept that worked. Like, it's a concept for a horror flick that immediately I saw the trailer and I thought, yeah, sounds pretty good. Could have gone either way. I felt it worked. Quite well. Samara Weaving is excellent. I think she is
a good actress. I'll give her that.
Really kind of a couple of movies now that I'm just like, I'm sort of interested in where she's going from here. Like,
yeah.
I think that I know you didn't get many laughs out of it. I got a few laughs, especially from Henry Zerny a couple of times, blowing up the Lux. But the idea, I just felt was a good idea. I reckon probably next time around will be where I sort of really decide how much I like the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely have to go back to it to look, see a few of the things that you kind of don't take in the first time around necessarily, but when you start sort of digging in a bit more, you get the little tip-offs to where it's going to go eventually and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really, really happy with it.
Fair enough. All right, my number 3, it skirts the line because I wouldn't have called it, it's more of a thriller, I guess you would say, but I really liked Knives Out.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really well done.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a fan of that Agatha Christie style, put everyone in an old dark house and then kill someone off, and then everyone's a suspect.
View on it. Yeah,
it's all viewed from different angles. They did a really, really good job.
Yep.
And one of the things I think that they managed to get a lot out of was it had this really darkish humour running through the whole film.
Yep.
And that just added to it, There was some really good performances too.
Foghorn Craig.
Daniel Craig. It worked somehow.
Yeah.
But it was a super cast as well.
Yeah,
People like Toni Collette and Don Johnson and Jamie Lee Curtis, Chris Evans. Really good cast. Just a really good movie all round.
Yeah.
And it kind of had a little bit of Murder on the Orient Express, but mixed with this dark humour that made, you laughed several times during the film where it's almost like it's comical to see what's going on.
Yeah.
But yet it still sort of rolls back to there's a twist that you kind of don't really see coming.
Yep.
So I really liked the way it was done.
Cool. All right. So I had at 3, I had The Nightingale.
Ah, you mentioned this the other day, didn't you?
I don't even really know. I mean, it's not really a horror flick, but I've sort of ended up putting it in there because it's, Jennifer Kent having done the Babadook previously, and the stuff that goes on is kind of quite horrific, and in the end it's sort of got a revenge tale element to it. But yeah, really, like, just a beautiful looking film for one, but really sort of affecting the relationships between the characters. Just feel really well developed. The guy that sort of perpetrates a lot of the shit that's going on, the acting performance given for him is just, you just fucking hate the bloke.
Yeah.
The acting performance is fantastic. And obviously being an Australian film, there's a lot of sort of issues raised that are relevant to us here. So
Yeah.
it's I would highly recommend it.
Good one. I'll have to. I don't know how difficult it is to watch, but
Yeah.
I'll have to see if I can get my hands
To be
on it.
honest, I think it's overdone a little bit. Obviously, there's some things being done that are quite horrific, but it's not necessarily
Graphic.
super graphic with them. And I feel like, as I've said, so I think I've made it pretty clear that I'm not a huge fan of some of that stuff being used as plot devices. But in this case, it actually feels relevant to as like a representation of what was being done to groups of people and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had less of an issue with it here.
Fair enough. My number 2. Now, I believe when I spoke about this prior, I enjoyed it, but I know there was some problems with it.
Yeah.
But I think overall, looking back on it, I really liked the idea, and I think they executed it pretty well.
Yep.
Under the circumstances, and that was Brightburn.
Mm-hmm.
I think they really did a very good job. The whole idea of what if Superman landed and became a murderer, basically.
Yep.
The way it played out for the most part was pretty well done, barring a couple of little sort of moments where you just knew they were going to do something, and it was kind of like, well, what's the point of this?
Yeah,
Considering
yeah.
you kind of know, e.g., shoot the kid in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Well, you know he's fucking superhuman, don't you?
Yeah.
You think that's just going to bounce off?
Yeah.
But overall, I think the idea and the execution of that idea were pretty well done. So I really did actually enjoy that a lot.
There
And
you
I
go.
definitely probably give that another viewing soon.
Yeah.
Now on DVD to have another look at it and get some more sense of what I liked and what I didn't like about it.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of the same. I see the warts, and I had a few real issues. Like it was sort of how I wanted, sort of how its strengths were its weaknesses too. Like by taking the story of Superman, you could also see things like that. That scene just played out exactly how you thought it was going to play out, and just kind of lost the impact.
Yep.
But I really appreciated, some of the spins they put on it, and it's a sort of field I would love for them to go back to.
Yeah.
I would love for them to take other superheroes or continue on with that particular story and take classic Superman stories, but put the spin on them of if the coin was flipped.
I think there's room to manoeuvre with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that, yes, really good first effort, had its problems, but we found a bit of a groove. Maybe we can do something more with it.
Yeah, totally.
So that was definitely my number 2. Your number 2?
My number 2 was Crawl. Yeah. So, as we've discussed, certain things that you have to cop.
Barry Pepper's hands
Pepper's
and arms and
legs,
body seem to be super indestructible.
Yep. And a few of the things that you need to cop for the setup to be where it is.
Yep.
If you can get over that, it's just a hell of a fun ride. The execution of some of the scenes where they're in the crawl space are excellent. Like, really well done, really wringing the tension out of the concept. And there was actually less parts where I felt, this is totally stupid, than I thought we were going to have to cop. So overall, it was one of my most kind of enjoyable watches of the year. Even Matty K checked it out with me and was quite impressed.
Yeah. Well, it was my number 1.
Yep.
Because it delivered exactly what it said it was going to.
Yeah.
It was a B movie, really.
Yep.
A B movie idea delivered with A movie skill and
B movie Matthew McConaughey.
B movie, yeah.
Although
Or is he
Matthew's
C
made a few
movie?
C and D movies this year anyway, so maybe Matthew's
Maybe Matthew's like Barry Pepper.
Sugar-free Barry Pepper.
But it worked, and it worked really well. It's like, I'm not putting it up in the Jaws category, but it's the same thing applies.
Yeah.
Jaws was a B movie made with A movie skills.
Yep.
And delivered exactly what you were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And Crawl did the same, but it did it in a really tight, confined space and made it tense the whole time. And even though you have to swallow a bit of bullshit, you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've swallowed a few helpings of alligator shit on the way.
I had my mouth open the whole time. Yeah, I really enjoyed Crawl.
Good to see Alex Arger back in the frame here. So.
Exactly, because after he didn't make Maniac, did he?
No.
He was involved in it though.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he'd gone off my radar after that little shit fest, but this was a real return to form.
Yep.
And it was such a simple concept, but really, really handled well.
Yep. All right.
What's your number one?
What do you reckon it's going to be?
I don't know. What is it going to be?
You don't know? Really?
The 6 Underground?
John Wick 3.
Oh, John Wick 3, yes. It's been a prick of a year for action films.
Yeah, aside from that.
Johnny Wick.
The first 20 minutes of sitting in John Wick in the cinema was just mind-blowing. Some of the shit that was going on was like, I mean, the bloody fight with the knives in the museum kind of space. The horses, like I was just sitting there going, holy shit, they've just done it again here. They've somehow managed to continue this going, bringing Mark Dacascos in.
Yeah.
I must say, I didn't love sort of what happened at the end, but it seems like we're pretty clearly going to get another one. So,
yeah.
Hey, keep them coming.
Yeah.
And this is what I was saying about the second one. I remember we talked about the second one and me and Gibbo had sort of differing opinions because he thought opening up the world was a little bit stupid, whereas I was kind of more, I'm like, I want to see more of the Continental.
Yeah.
This one opens it way further. And sometimes that doesn't kind of work as well as I hope it would, but for the action sequences and everything, they're just exactly how you would hope they would be. And they get a fairly accomplished, martial artist who's had to toil for years in some real shit in Dacascos. And he shows he's a pretty charismatic performer with the right kind of work and the right role. He can be really good. And they get, I think one of the blokes from The Raid is in it from memory as well.
Oh, yeah?
And it's just awesome. It's just awesome.
Yeah. Definitely
the complete antidote to Michael Bay-itis.
Yes.
And just get yourself a shot of John Wick.
Take a couple of these and call me in the morning.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. I can't wait for the next one. So.
Excellent. All right. That is our best and worst for 2019. Happy New Year to everybody. Keep an eye on the Facebook page to see what we do in the new year. But until then, take it easy and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers.
Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.